Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. It's episode 40, and we are going to be mainly talking about the UK versus Indiana matchup, recapping that. But first, I want to shout out UK. They, of course, won their last matchup against Creighton. They are now going to the Final Four. They will be playing on Thursday, but it was crazy. They swept Creighton, and everybody was talking about how they were going to the volleyball matchup and then going to the UK basketball matchup right after that. So it was great to see, UK put that on, like having shuttles from the volleyball, the volleyball matchup to being able to go to Rupp Arena, of course, Joe Craft to Rupp Arena. So that was great to see, and I'm happy for the UK volleyball team, and they'll be either facing against Texas or Wisconsin in the Final Four. But how are you doing, Cameron, though?
No, I'm doing well. Yeah, credit to the all the people that made the trip from Memorial to Rupp. Seemed like a great doubleheader, and these girls have dominated the entire time. Only lost one set this whole time, 9-1 overall. But yeah, 3-0, and I missed one of the sets. I was watching two of the three, and they were absolutely dominating in those two that I watched. So they've been just invincible so far. And then there's obviously a chance that they play Texas or Wisconsin. If they play Texas again, then it's the third time that we will match up against the
Yeah.
Longhorns. And then obviously on the other side, a couple teams that we have already played with Nebraska and A&M. That winner will play Pittsburgh. So either way, we'll be playing some teams that we've played in the past already, and a couple of them need to get some lick back against them because there's not many losses on the schedule, but we have lost a couple, and it's
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and the Nebraska game. Like, it's gonna be tough no matter what. But these girls have absolutely dominated their way so far.
Yeah. They definitely have dominated. And like I said, I remember watching the UK versus Texas volleyball matchup, and I thought wasn't going to really be a contest because Texas they got up 2-0. I thought, oh, they're going to sweep us or they're going to, win maybe 3-1. But UK came back, they had the reverse sweep, and they were the SEC tournament champions. First time I think they had the SEC volleyball tournament since like 1994, I think, 95, something like that. It's been a long time since they actually had a tournament for SEC volleyball, and I was excited that they brought it back and excited that UK actually won it for the first time since they brought it back since like 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was very exciting to win it in the first one back, and just like having it back was cool, but then being able to like jump right on it and win and do it in the fashion that we did. Obviously, you don't want to go down 2-0, but if you're going to go down 2-0, a reverse sweep is like the best outcome possible. So it was really
Yeah,
cool.
I couldn't believe it for sure. And of course, the whole volleyball team, they have stepped up. Shout out Craig Skinner as well. He's a great volleyball head coach, and I just love everything that he's been doing. And so many people are saying UK is a volleyball school now instead of like a rifle school or a football school or a basketball school. Of course, I'm just poking fun because of how bad, some of our top sports have been so far.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about best coach on campus, and maybe
Yeah.
that's got some truth to it. He's the only national title winning coach on campus, so we can give him that. And obviously some of these other sports have dominated as well. You mentioned rifle, cheer. There's a lot of these, I guess like secondary sports that you would consider, but volleyball has been right there at the top with the one championship already and being able to continue on with their dominance in this tournament so far. And
Yeah.
yeah, getting to see them roll, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, I just want to say a couple more things about Skinner, and then we can start talking about the basketball team and everything. But it's crazy what all the promotion he has done for UK volleyball. At first, he got on top of the desk and told every fan to turn into the game, and he got a lot of people to show out. And then after that, everybody's like, "How can he top this?" Then he goes to the top of the big blue building in Lexington and basically says, "Everybody come to our next matchup. We need you all there." And everybody's like, "There's no way he can top this." Like he goes to the top of the big blue building, and then the next thing we know is he's flying an airplane or whatever it was. And I was like, "What in the world?" Like, what is he going to do next to get fans to come?
Yeah, the next one was he ended up going like back down to reality. It felt like with in memorial or something. But somebody, I think it might have been WT, was like, I was expecting the International Space Station with this one. Like I was expecting him to just be all the way because yeah, he's just turned it up a notch every single time with the promotion.
Yeah, like I said, it's been crazy and wild, but he definitely knows how to promote the UK volleyball team, and hopefully they can continue to win and actually get another championship. Of course, they won back in COVID, like it was technically the 2020 season, but they didn't have volleyball until the 2021 like springtime because they pushed it ahead because of COVID at that time. Didn't know how it would impact the volleyball team, so they moved it into the springtime in 2021. They actually defeated my Hilltoppers, so I was a little disappointed with that. But UK volleyball, they won a national title back then, and hopefully they can win it finally again this year for the first time in 40 years.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Get another one would be a lot of fun. And I still remember like where I was, who I was with, all this stuff for the last one. So it was like as a guy that hasn't really watched a whole lot of volleyball in his life, these
Yeah.
girls in this university and the run that Skinner's had these girls on, it's been must see TV. They've been fun to watch.
Yeah, must see TV for sure. And I remember like more, it was more so my freshman and sophomore year of college. I used to try to go to like every sporting event at WKU. Of course, I went there. But I tried to go to like every men's, women's basketball games, soccer, volleyball, you name it. Like I tried to go to like almost every sporting event at home if I could. And more so after that, my junior and senior year, I was more focused on like, my degree. Of course, I wasn't, I was still focused on my degree my first 2 years, but it wasn't like I was taking all my broadcasting classes, my first 2 years of college.
Yeah, actually, I just mentioned how I know exactly, like remember where I was, who I was with, and everything. Funny enough, you mentioning Western, I was at the Mr. B's in Bowling Green when this
Really?
happened. When we won the championship, I was down visiting friends and stuff.
Yeah,
So, but
that's
it's
cool.
got a special place.
Yeah, I got a special place for sure. I believe I wasn't just at my apartment watching UK. I forgot who they took down. I think was it Texas that year?
I think it was Texas, honestly.
Yeah, I think it might have been Texas, but I do remember watching it at my apartment, cheering on UK and hoping they would win it all, of course, after they defeated my Hilltoppers, though.
Yeah, it's tough to beat the in-state people, but they had to go through the path and win it. But yes, it was Texas.
It was Texas that year. Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
3-1.
Yeah, it was a good one for sure. But enough talking about the volleyball team. Let's transition now into the basketball team. And finally, UK got their first big win of the year. It took forever. Of course, UK had losses to Louisville, Michigan State, UNC, and then got blown out against Gonzaga. And everybody was like, when will UK finally get their first big win of the year? And it finally came through on Saturday against Indiana with UK winning 72 to 60. And at first, I really did not think UK was going to win this game because they got down in the first half. I think they were down 40 to 32, I believe, in that first half. I'm checking right now. It was 39-32 to end the first half, and fans were booing the team off the court going into halftime. And I felt bad for the team because I was like, are we are we going to really lose to Indiana at home? Like after you already lost to UNC at home, like this cannot happen. If it did happen, I think a lot of people were really going to call for Mark Pope to get fired, but they finally figured out a groove in that second half for sure.
Yeah, this game, I remember talking about it in the preview, that if we were to lose this game, it was going to be, you were going to see like GoFundMe's to try to figure out a way to get Mark Pope out of town, and people were going to be paying to make sure we don't have this man as our coach, because this would have been an unacceptable loss. But
Yeah.
credit to them, they turned it around. Like you mentioned, they were down seven at half, and had a 17-2 run over about a 6 minute span,
Mhm.
about the 13-minute mark is when it started. And that completely changed everything. And that was physical. It was the hardest they've played all year.
Mhm.
And yeah, you mentioned the games that we've lost, and three of those four we really weren't in them
Yeah.
for them. I mean, like you can make an argument for the end of the Louisville game we came back, but like
Mhm. Got
the
it down to
UNC
four.
game, yeah, the UNC game, it was an unacceptable loss in
Yeah.
my opinion. That was like even at this point, I don't think UNC is that good. Like they're
Mhm.
fine, but losing that one at home is like bad. So it was like if this one piles on top of that, it's about to get ugly.
Yeah.
But they take a team that has incredible offense, force bad shots out of them, and slow them down a ton and hold them a whole lot lower than their usual outings have been. So
Yeah.
defensively, it was great, and they just played super physical, played with a lot of heart, and it was the first time I feel like we had seen that out of the full team this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And honestly, I think one of the reasons why UK won this game, other than, of course, we'll talk about, the three big players that stepped up with Mo Diabate, Jaland Lowe, and Brandon Garrison. But one of the reasons why UK won was, other than being really more physical in that second half, was because UK caused Indiana to have 18 turnovers during that game. Like, if you're turning the ball over, I feel like you're going to lose the game more than likely if you probably turn the ball over. I would say more like 15 turnovers or more like 12 is cutting it close. Like you could win a game, you could not win a game. But I feel like if you have 15 or more turnovers, you're more than likely going to lose the game. And that's what UK did. They caused a lot of turnovers, and I was very happy about that. They played very physical, but Indiana having 18 turnovers is like something that should never happen during a game. Like, of course, I love that as a UK fan, but as any team, if you have 18 turnovers, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, 18 is really, really bad. It was, I mean, that's the reason that we got out and were able to run and stuff too. Like we turned their turnovers into points,
Uh-huh.
and outside of that, honestly, the other thing that they could have impacted that would have switched things up and maybe had them in it a lot later in the game was the foul trouble, and that was a credit to UK also, but their guys also playing too carefree and going to pick up fouls. Like Lamar Wilkerson picked up his fourth with
Yeah.
like the 18-minute mark in the second, so it was like we talked about it in the preview. There's two guys. That's their entire offense. It's Tucker
Yep.
DeVries, Lamar Wilkerson. And if you have one of those escape, all eyes turn to Tucker
Mhm.
and Lamar sitting on the bench. And you don't have to worry about him. Like it just changed a lot of things. And
Mhm.
that's credit to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's on Lamar too that
Mhm.
I mean, he was fouling. Like there was one of them. I was like, I'm sure Indiana fans are going to be ruthless trying to say that this wasn't a foul, but like yeah, it's on him at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
those two sitting out in this one was or getting in foul trouble was just big, and the turnovers, like you mentioned, was the main key
Mhm.
where the defense stepped up, and it felt like defensively this team's starting to really find their identity with being able to jump passing lanes and just be super super physical, allow nothing easy around the rim, and force bad shots.
Yeah, and I just felt like for both teams, it just felt like the refs were just allowing them to do whatever. Like they weren't really calling a lot of fouls. Of course, people were saying that it was a foul fest, and I can look at the stats. Right now, it's said for Kentucky, they said that they fouled 18 times, and then for Indiana, it was 24. So overall, there were 42 fouls. So yeah, I guess there were a lot of fouls. Granted, it was way more on Indiana, 24 to 18. But for me, it just felt like they allowed the teams to be more physical. It felt like more so for Kentucky that the refs allowed them to be more physical, and then I felt like for both teams they were getting away with a lot of travels down low, like towards the goal. I'm thinking to myself like I felt like Brandon Garrison or Mo Diabate just traveled, or for Indiana whoever it might have been like Lamar Wilkerson or Tucker D. Free, whoever it might be. Like it just felt like the refs were just allowing some stuff to go.
Yeah, they definitely let some stuff go, and that's another credit to UK. Like, if they're gonna call it that way, then play it that way. Just play super physical
Mhm.
and use your athleticism and body and everything to your advantage. And that's really what we did. I mean, we out athleticized them for sure,
Mhm.
but outside of that, bringing the physicality and stuff, and I mean, especially front court wise, because that's what we talked about in the preview. They did not have front court
Yeah.
like strength. They weren't good overall. So being able to see the front court go out and have a good game like that was very, very important. And I love to see that and seeing them bring out like true physicality and
Yeah.
hustle and everything.
I agree with you on that. And for UK, like I said, they caused 18 turnovers. Out of those 18 turnovers they had, UK scored 23 points from that, which is pretty good because, like at max you can get is 54 points because, you get a 3 point for each shot. But, to score 23 points off of 18 turnovers, usually that will win you some games.
Yeah, for sure. If you can dominate the points off turnovers to that level, you're going to be doing pretty well. And
Hmm.
between those and rebounding, that was the recipe. And that was,
Yeah.
I think, if we're able to do that, which there's going to be some teams. I mean, next Saturday will be one example of it that it's not going to be super easy, and it wasn't easy at times in this one, but the guys just played super physical
Hmm.
and the way that they ran the break this time, it felt like there wasn't as much of like a script to it where I've seen people highlight the one where Ortega brings it up, sets up the offense, gives it to BG. BG hits Cam on a backdoor. Like there's just a lot of that where it felt more fluid instead of like, all right, find a guard, go set something up, go set this slow down screen. Like it just felt more like there was just chemistry
Yeah.
involved, and so it was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun to see as well. And another thing that sticks out to me before we get into player stats and talking about Mark Pope and everything, but for UK, 42 of their 72 points came from off the bench. Of course, that makes a lot of sense because, you had Mo Diabate, Brandon Garrison, and Jaland Lowe all coming off the bench and having a big impact for us. And like I said, I was very happy to see Garrison having a bounce back game. I know a lot of fans don't like him, which I understand why they don't because, it just feels like he doesn't bring the whole intensity, doesn't bring his full game during games like he doesn't look fully locked in, but I was very happy to see Garrison bounce back, even though he only had 6 points along with 5 rebounds. And then he also had one block and one steal in 20 minutes. Like he looked so much better compared to, of course, after being benched during the NC Central game, and he was a +7 in those 20 minutes. So I was happy to see Brandon Garrison, but I just think that stat is crazy. 42 of the 72 points for UK came off the bench, though.
Yeah, and you highlighted the three, and they all came off the bench, but those three were really the guys that you got to talk about for sure. And for BG to be able to adapt and not react to it, and just like not take the benching and be a baby about it or anything, and just come back and dominate and prove that you are meant to be and your role and everything. So um, it was awesome to see. BG, like we texted about it. I was so happy to see.
Mhm.
And there's really no guy right now that I would want it more for. Maybe Owe, a crazy night would be helpful, but like BG, the low of the NC Central game, getting yelled at, benched, and everything. And I'm sure there was a whole lot worse behind the scenes. And being able to come out and do this
Mhm.
was awesome. And some of these other guys that came off the bench were spectacular. But Brandon Garrison in specific, like he had the great block. And the numbers don't jump off the page at you, but like what he did and when he was grabbing those rebounds and going out of his area to go grab rebounds instead of
Yeah.
just letting one come to him, like that was the main difference in this one. And love to see Brandon Garrison go out there and ball.
Yeah, same here. And 33 of those 42 points came from the three with Garrison, Lowe, and Diabate. So, of course, the other 9 points came from Cam Williams. And honestly, I want to talk about him real quick. I hope Cam Williams can definitely find a groove because I can't remember if we got a steal or a turnover or whatever it was, but I remember he got the ball and then he comes down the court or he gets the ball and then he just gets rim stuff whenever going up for the layup. Luckily, he got the offensive rebound, put it back up. He got fouled. Of course, the shot didn't go in, but at least he got fouled and he went to the free throw line. But I'm thinking to myself, you have to figure out ways to finish that. Like, I know, like, whenever you see that coming from a college basketball player, you just feel bad, of course, other than, like, if it came from a walk-on. Like, walk-ons, you're like, so be it. Like, it might be a little bit embarrassing, but to come from a full-out scholarship player with Cam Williams, like, you just feel bad for him, and hopefully he can figure out groove. He went 2 for 2. He made both free throws after that, but like I want him to find his groove because, like I said, at points like during the game, like he looks amazing. Where like if his three goes down, it's nothing but net. But then if he shoots another three, like it doesn't come anywhere near like he shot an air ball. And I really want him to figure it out some way somehow.
Yeah, that the rim stuffing that you're referring to, that was literally the next possession after an airball three. So it was like back to back possessions. It was like, dang, dude. Um, But I mean, luckily, to wipe away that a little bit, Lamar Wilkerson went to the other end like 2 plays later or something, and had a wedgie on a layup. So it was like, all right, well,
Yeah, I remember that
this is
too.
worse. Um, but yeah, Cam, I'd love to see him get in his groove. Like just like you said, it sometimes he's either like the best player on the floor or the worst player on the floor, and there's like no in between. And it's I want him to figure it out and just be able to be the guy that we like was expecting to get. Like,
Hmm.
but it's just it's like the team we knew a lot of these guys couldn't shoot, and it's like the team is like
Hmm.
rubbed off onto him. Like
Yeah.
he shot like 47% from three, and now it's just kind of like I mean he'll pass some up where it's like, dude, just pull that. Like that
Cool.
you're one of those guys.
Mhm.
But yeah, for him and these other guys, like having all these points off the bench and everything, like maybe some of these guys kind of get back into the starting lineup and different things. But like
Mhm.
if these guys are going to come off the bench and do this, then maybe just continuity wise and just being able to play certain ways, like maybe that is very helpful to have these guys come off the bench and putting up 42 in this one is very, very key.
Yeah, and we all probably thought, the two best shooters, maybe three best shooters on this year's team was going to be Cam Williams, Trent Noah, and then maybe Colin Chandler as well, like put him there, but like nobody expected UK to not like everybody expected UK to somewhat struggle from the 3-point line, but we were expecting at least Cam Williams, Jasper Johnson, and Trent Noah to at least be shooting probably 35% from the 3-point line. Probably everybody was expecting that, and everybody else was going to, shoot a little bit worse because this year's team wasn't fully about 3-point shooting. It was more about being physical and trying to be more physical, grabbing rebounds, and playing better defense this year.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was going to be those guys out there shooting and the rest kind of getting downhill and using the spacing that those guys bring. But yeah, they haven't really panned out. Really, nobody's panned out other than Colin shooting wise,
Yeah.
and he's even had some rough outings, and it just stinks because like obviously with Pope's offense, it's very very helpful to be able to at
Mhm.
least make a respectable three, like just. But this team just doesn't have that, and they're being able to adapt to it, and grabbing that many offensive boards is one way to do it. I mean, if you're gonna still shoot them,
Mhm.
or turn those into floaters and mid range and stuff, at least you're going to grab those boards, and so
Mhm.
that's very helpful. But they're gonna have to figure out ways outside of shooting, and that's been like the. I know we're only 11 games in,
Mhm.
but like we realized like game six it was like, all right, yeah, we're just not gonna be able to shoot. That's just kind
Yeah.
of this team, and I'm glad they're starting to figure out other ways to get
Yeah.
around it to be able to put points on the board.
Yeah, and I really like what Charles Barkley said last night during the game. Of course, that was also a great broadcasting duo with Charles Barkley and Dick Vitale. A lot of people are saying this might be Dick Vitale's last year doing commentating, and if it is, he's had a legendary career, being a broadcaster and broadcasting guy. And, I wish Dick Vitale the best. If, like I said, this is his last year and last UK game he's going to commentate, but. I really like what Barkley said. He basically said for UK's offense, they don't really have an half-court offense at all, and he said basically that for UK, they just need to put up shots quickly, like within the first 10 seconds of the shot clock, and then just have your big men, whether it be Mo Diabate, Brandon Garrison, whoever it might be, and just crash the rebounds and try to get the offensive rebound and then put it back up or pass out to, Jaland Lowe or whoever it might be, to either reset the offense or shoot up another three. So I do agree with Barkley. That's probably how UK's offense has to start going because they don't have a lot of 3-point shooters.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the way. I did see a whole lot of hate towards that broadcast. I was shocked by the amount of hate. I loved it. I thought it was perfect, but there were a
Yeah.
lot of people that were like in the boat of like, I'd rather them actually just talk about the game and like commentate how you're supposed to commentate. And I'm just like, this is exactly what I want. I want them telling stories about like random guys. Like, we'll get enough game talk and we get that the other 30 regular season games. Like, I want Chuck and Dickie V to go over there and just start joking on each other and stuff. Like, I want them to talk about a whole lot of other stuff sprinkled in with basketball. But I just saw a whole lot of hate. So did
Yeah.
you like the broadcast with
Yeah,
them?
I liked it overall. Like I said, I think probably most people didn't like it just because of how close the game was and how big of a matchup it was because UK was trying to get their first big win of the year. But overall, I liked it. I know a lot of people complain whenever they had, the two on the screen and then they had the basketball game going on, of course, in that other corner as well. Like they had the split screen going on. And I know people didn't like that, but, I liked seeing that. And because we don't know how much longer Dick Vitale has left in broadcasting as well. Like I mentioned earlier, like this could have been Vitale's last game with UK, and he's done for the year. Of course, he still has other games to commentate, and I wish him the best. But no, I overall really enjoyed it. I love to just hear their stories and everything because they've been in broadcasting, playing the game as well for a long time. So overall they have a lot of basketball knowledge, and I like to hear all the stories that they mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. It was funny. I saw an IU fan that was talking about. It's so funny that like Charles Barkley, like, very obviously didn't like do a lick of scouting and didn't do anything scouting wise, didn't watch any film or anything. But then within 10 minutes, he was like, "Oh, so this is this team's weakness, this is their strength." And it's just from like just him being around the game for so long, being really,
Yeah,
really good as a player, and then being in commentating for a while, he was able to just like pick it up right away
yeah,
and kind of understand what these teams are. But I did love the broadcast. I thought it was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I don't know if y'all saw this, but it was posted by Rajon Rondo yesterday. But he got a call from Dick Vitale and everything. And basically, Dick Vitale was, asking Rondo if he still follows UK to this day. And he's like, yes, I do. Like, I watch every game and still support UK no matter what and everything. And Vitale also asked Rondo about his kid. I think he said his kid is either in eighth or ninth grade and how
He's
he's
eighth.
yeah, in eighth grade, and how, he's a great basketball player. And Vitale joked with him saying, I hear he drops like 30 points per game or something. And Rondo's like, no, not 30 points. So,
Yeah, I've coached against this kid quite a bit.
uh
Yeah, we've played Pierre, his son.
yeah,
I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. He played varsity last year as a seventh grader.
that's
He
great.
only played JV varsity last year, and now as an eighth grader, I think he only plays varsity.
Uh-huh.
But he did drop 29 in their first game against Ballard, and Ballard's pretty good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he was probably not averaging 30. So Rondo was probably spot on with that. But
Yeah.
his son's good though. His son is
Yeah.
crazy. He's got his dad's hands. So they're massive. He's got a big wingspan. Like he's definitely Rondo's son. He looks
Yeah.
like him and everything.
Yeah, I hear you, but no, if y'all haven't seen that video, I know it was posted on Rajon Rondo's Instagram, so I would definitely check that out because it was a cool video. Vital talked to Rondo for probably like 2 minutes on FaceTime, and I just thought it was very sweet and everything.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that honestly. I'm gonna go make sure I check that out once we get off.
Yeah, it was like a 2 minutes FaceTime call just before the UK Louisville game yesterday, and like I said, it was posted online, and thought it was a sweet video.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I love Rondo. I love that he's
Yeah.
still always supporting. I did see him. We played in like this just summer thing. They do it every year at St. X, and North Oldham was there where his son goes. And I saw Rondo there, and he was just wearing Kentucky head to toe. Like he was just still like yeah. There's no hiding from it. He was just like blue head to toe. It was like blue.
Mhm.
Might have been a UK hat, and then there was like a UK hoodie, UK shorts, and I was like, yeah, this guy, he's just a cat.
Yeah, I've only encountered Rhonda once, and I didn't know. I brought it up probably plenty of times on the podcast, but I didn't know it was him at the time until I saw his face because he was down on the football field. This was probably back in 2022, I believe. But I was filming the game for ABC 36 at the time, and he was down on the field, and I saw him talking to somebody, but I couldn't tell who he was because, like I said, he had his hood on, couldn't see his face, and then he looks up and I'm like, whoa, that's Rondo. So I'm like, what's good, Rondo? And shook his hand and everything. So that was a cool experience. And that's my only experience I've ever had with him in person.
Yeah, I've been around him just a ton, and he also, so the guy that I coach under at the school that I'm at, like he's the head varsity coach. He coached Rondo when he was at Eastern, right before he went to Oak Hill, and
Hmm.
so he knows him. So like when Rondo's came to our school a few times, like our coach has just gone up to him, talked to him for a little bit. But Rondo is very, very, and I mean you could tell in interviews and different stuff, like he's not the most out there social butterfly in the world. Like he just does
Yeah.
not like being around a ton of people or anything. And so I remember at one of our games last year when he was in our school, uh he people were coming up to him like flooding him, asking for autographs and stuff. He was like, no, 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 no. Like he
Yeah.
was just like saying like, no, I'm trying to watch my kid play and then
Hmm.
get out of here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like I said, I know it can be a lot for a sport athlete or any celebrity, like where fans want pictures or autographs, and like you just gotta respect, their time and everything. Like I remember this was my freshman year of college, but WKU they were hosting the CUSA volleyball tournament there, and Brett Favre had a daughter, but she doesn't play anymore at Southern Miss because, of course, she's already graduated from there. But she was on the Southern Miss volleyball team, and he was at a sweet box at the WKU game, and I was trying to get a photo with him, but he just kept saying like no, no, no. And of course, it was probably also another added reason why he didn't want to take a photo because WKU was defeating on Southern Miss at that time. So that was probably one of the reasons why he also didn't want to take a photo with me.
Hey, that is a cool little story though. It stinks that he wasn't one to get a pick though. I feel like if you're at like your daughter's volleyball game or something, I feel like you probably just take a second or something and
Yeah.
just be like, hey man, just like take a selfie or something. I'll just those thumbs up. I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
that'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, he was like I said, like right above me. He was in a sweet box, and you could see, him and everything. And I think he was with his wife and probably other family members too. But that was a cool experience. Sadly, I couldn't get a photo with him though.
Yeah, Ditto Arena's nice. I
Yeah.
went. I've been there, spent a lot of time on the campus, mainly with SCA camps and stuff. And so we've
Mhm.
gone into like some of those suite boxes and stuff just to
Mhm.
do like when we'll have like breakaway time or something. And
Mhm.
those suites are just nice for being a G5 school. It's just like,
Yeah.
dang, these are pretty nice.
Yeah, they are very nice. But let's get back into the UK Indiana matchup. But I still can't believe this stat. Even though UK out rebounded Indiana with offensive rebounding, because of course UK had 14 offensive rebounds and Indiana only had 8. But Indiana out rebounded UK overall. They out rebounded UK 37 to 34. But I just find that stat insane because it looked overall UK was just out rebounding Indiana. Granted, UK had 14 offensive rebounds compared to Indiana's 8. And that was very key because, like getting the second chance points and everything, like from the 14 offensive rebounds, UK had 18 points off of those, and that's a pretty key stat as well.
Yeah, it's definitely like more efficiently done with us with putting up points off of the rebounds and offensive rebounds are also just a lot louder. It feels like if you're just like watching, you're like, oh, okay, like there's another board, there's another board. One example, Mo's possession, it looked like he had 12 rebounds on that
Yeah.
possession. But it was like three. But yeah, it was crazy whenever I looked after the game and I was like, dang, they out rebounded us. But I guess it's just because like the feeling of getting offensive rebounds, you're like, yeah, we're dominating these guys. But then on the defensive end, they kind of got it done. So,
Hmm.
uh, but being able to win a game like this, and also it wasn't because we were hitting shots, but sometimes if you're able to shoot pretty well and everything, then maybe that's part of the reason why you lose the rebounding battle. But that wasn't it. So it
Yeah.
was kind of shocking to see that. But I'm glad we were still able to get the dub, even though they beat us in that category.
Yeah, and of course, I think with UK winning 72 to 60, I think one of the key reasons why UK won this game, of course, other than rebounding and, getting turnovers was because, like you mentioned earlier, Lamar Wilkerson, he was in foul trouble. He had 4 fouls, but he went off for Indiana. He had a quarter of their points with 15 points. He went 5 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. He also added 2 rebounds to the game. But I think if Lamar Wilkerson wasn't in foul trouble against UK, this game might have been completely different as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was getting after it pretty early and getting his shots up. Him and Tucker were both
Yeah.
they were getting their shots up and it was kind of what we expected. They scored, but we were able to hold them to a little bit lower than what they were definitely going into and hoping for to be able to win that game. So um
Yeah.
Peyton Connerway did
Yeah.
well for him. I remember he had a couple good buckets. So like
Hmm.
outside of them two, there was really nothing, and that's kind of what we expected going into it. It was like take those two out of it,
Hmm.
and part of it was on them because of the foul trouble and everything. But also what we were doing defensively, you gotta give credit to us too. So yeah, it was awesome to see them not thrive because that was kind of the game plan. It felt like going in was just like, all right, let's hold these guys to below what they're wanting, and we'll do our thing. And keeping Lamar off the floor for as much as possible was pretty helpful
Yeah,
in
for
that.
sure. And like you mentioned, there were only 3 players that did very well for Indiana. I actually had over 2/3 of their points with Lamar Wilkerson, 15 points. Tucker DeFree had 15 points, and then Tatum Conaway had 11. So they scored 41 of the 60 points for Indiana. And like we said, we took, majority of the team out of their flow and everything. And that's one of the reasons why UK was able to get that win.
Yeah, definitely took them out of their flow and what were just physically dominant, forcing them to, I mean, take a lot of like bad threes when they were taking them. I mean, they got a couple off of rotation and stuff that were good looks, but um overall, we just made everything extremely difficult and just, I mean, we at times kept them off their own glass and did our job there. So it was a great defensive outing entirely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And like I said, very excited about UK, and it was also Mo Diabate's birthday yesterday, and I want to talk about what Mark Pope had to say about Mo Diabate. He said the game was perfectly suited for Mo. He was a lead on the defensive end. His physicality and doing it legal was elite. He was great on the glass. It was awesome to have him back, and I'm just glad he's back. Of course, like many people say that, Owe and Diabate can't play together because of the spacing on the floor, but we saw what Dioubate could do in that second half, and he was just rebounding at will. And I want to talk about that too in the second half for Kentucky. I mean, the majority of the team came down to Owe. He played all 20 minutes during that second half. And then you had Cam Williams with 15 minutes, Brendan Garrison 13, Jaland Lowe 15, and Mo Diabate 13. So those were your five main players on the court during the second half, which I was happy that, Mark Pope is shortening down the rotation as well.
Yeah, that was the core that got it done there in that second half for sure. And Mo, like you mentioned, he just was dominant all night, and it was very, very fitting for him. Using their lack of strength and lack of size and everything to his advantage. And he went out there and just balled out. Double double, 14 and 12. And then he had the five steals too that were added on top of it. It was a crazy, crazy good performance for him. And being the birthday boy, it's always exciting to see
Yeah,
a guy like that pop off for one of these games. But Mo needed it. BG needed it that we already
yeah.
talked about. Like this was a
Well,
perfect game. Feel good to be able to get back on track and
mhm.
and get our first big key win of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And then Mark Pope also shouted out the fans. He said a ton of love for BB and for Songao. They were just unbelievable in the gym, and we are so grateful, and we never take it for granted how undying, loyal, and faithful and hanging in there with us. And I think, Mark Pope understands how much the fan base appreciates this team, and, like they finally got their first big win of the year, and Mark Pope understands it.
Yeah, it is crazy. Just this fan base. I don't think there would ever be any form of like a strike or anything. But some of these bad games, they haven't had the greatest crowd in the world. But this one turned out. All these big games have turned out, no matter how negative it's gotten, and everybody's just ready to rally. And so yeah, big credit to the fans. They got loud in there. They had to deal with IU fans, so that takes
Yeah.
a brave soul. So it was good stuff though.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never encountered an Indiana fan online or in person, but I've heard that Indiana fans, like, they really don't have a social media presence, but they are so bad in person. Like I said, I've never encountered one, so I'm not for sure, like, what they do, honestly, but I mean, Louisville fans were saying how bad they were.
Yeah, they're not really online because they're still stuck in 76. That's the reason they're just still stuck then. So but yeah, I haven't talked to too many online. Just a couple really, but I've seen them in person and stuff and they're not naturally just terrible. But yeah, I'm assuming just during the game they become a different animal and they just end up getting all fiery and it's like you mentioned there's been Louisville, there's been other like programs that have just talked about. They're like these guys are the absolute worst. Like I saw that the tweet last night that was like saying Tennessee and Louisville are both like online quite a bit. Won't really
Yeah,
ever do anything too bad in person, which
yeah,
I disagree with that Tennessee part. Maybe Louisville wouldn't. I don't know,
yeah,
but then they were saying like Indiana not online, but then you see them in person, they'll pour beer on your head
yeah,
and punch you or something. I was like,
yeah,
oh okay, so they're just the
yeah.
worst.
Yeah, I saw that tweet too. I think it was from either Big Blue Buddy or Wildcats Tongue, one of the two. I always get them confused. But hey, they have that great podcast together. Of course, we're up to no good with Bradley and of course Matt Sack too.
Yeah, those guys are killing it over there. They all seem like awesome fellows, and yeah, I mean they kind of run the BB and Twitter world. They are the trailblazers of that.
Yeah, they are the trailblazers for sure, the four of them. But let's talk a little bit more about Mark Pope, and then we can wrap up this podcast. But I want to talk about, his comment that he had about Jaland Lowe. Basically, he was saying that I feel like, Jaland Lowe was probably a little bit down after he missed that uncontested layup at one point, and he basically said, hey, that just means you are one closer to the make man. Be hyped about it like you are just one closer to making one." And then basically his teammates all said, they all jumped in like, yeah, shoot it, man. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And he then said, of course, the first shot he makes after missing all the shots that I preach and teach and talk about is a step back 15-footer. So go figure. But it was fun to see his competitive spirit come through tonight. And I just found that funny because, Mark Pope, he doesn't like the mid-range game at all. And like I said, Lowe hits that, step back shot in the mid-range after, gave him a little bump to get his Indiana defender off of him, like the Michael Jordan shot. And then Lowe makes the shot and finally gets the bucket.
Yeah, that play was awesome, and like as it happened live, I was like, man, he might have pushed off a little bit. And then I went back and looked, and I was like, yeah, he definitely pushed off, but it was still cool overall. It wasn't too much to get a foul or anything, so you can use that to your advantage. Go do it. And Jaland Lowe all night was phenomenal, and I've never sold the Jaland Lowe stock, and I have a lot of friends that have. They
Yeah.
do not like the man, but I continue to be like, look, there he is, and he just
Yeah.
opens up the entire offense so much. It's so much more free with him, and he just does so much for everybody. Like you can just run more with him. He forces movement on defenses that is very very helpful
Mhm.
for shots and just for different guys entirely. He had the one um, with like the up screen from I think it was like Malachi that brought it down for
Mhm.
Mo, and he gets under the basket almost to where it's like a Steve Nash area, and he just dishes it over. Mo gets that and one. There was he just opens it up so much. It's just
Yeah.
awesome to see him out there, and it's so funny because I don't remember who it might have been Brandon Ramsey or something the last night. He was like, man, it's almost like having your starting point guard matters, and it was like, yeah, that's what you get to see when you
Mhm.
have a fully healthy Jalen Lowe and get to see what he did, and he led the team in box score plus minus with plus
Yeah.
24. So he was like
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier, he was part of that core group that made
Mhm.
the run and did all their stuff in the second half, and yeah, he's just going to be a key piece going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to talk about Brandon Garrison, then I want to talk about two more things, and we'll wrap it up. But basically, Mark Pope went on a long conversation talking about Brandon Garrison, basically just saying that, Brandon Garrison could have gave up, like complained to his teammates or called out the coaches or even hung up his jersey or be a pouty guy during practice whenever he got benched against NC Central. But he didn't do that. He showed up to practice, had a great practice, and how he won basically every sprint during practice as well because, Pope said that they don't really focus on conditioning too much currently, but sometimes they will. And, he was just super proud of the way Brandon Garrison responded, and hopefully he can continue to respond better because the question was about him, breaking the clipboard at the NC Central game during a timeout after Garrison had that turnover, and then of course he got benched during that time. But he talked a little bit more after the Indiana game.
Yeah, as loud as the criticism was for Brandon Garrison at that moment and just the entire season overall, the praise should be just as loud for this game because
Mhm.
this was like I think this game was I had said last night I think it's the second best game in a Kentucky jersey. I think the Oklahoma road game last year
Yeah.
was going to be hard to top, but
Mhm.
this game, like I said, the stats don't jump out at you, but the way he played, the
Mhm.
physicality he had, like just everything he did was exceptional, and that's the BG that can like really
Yeah.
really elevate this team. So yeah, he deserves all the praise, and like Pope said, he could have pouted and thrown his jersey or whatever, but he did not. He chose to embrace it and adapt to it and use it as fuel.
Yeah, for sure. And then I also want to bring up, of course, like how I mentioned earlier, the 14 offensive rebounds for 18 second chance points for Kentucky. But Mark Pope, he credited Cody Feger because he's in charge of that with the metric. And basically, Feger, he lost his mind during a film session. And he said, I mean, he lost his mind. Like, I've never seen him. And he just lost it. And he basically said it was so fun to see these guys embrace the idea that we wish to win, talking about, boxing out their man and getting a rebound. And I'm just glad, Cody Feger actually lost his mind during practice and actually lit up the whole team to actually start rebounding, and that's what they did in the second half versus Indiana.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear that Feger's got that fire in him too, but the rebounding battle is just crazy different. And like, um, I always like think about like college games probably like 4 or 5 years behind the NBA, and just the adaptability and stuff. And
Mhm.
the big thing that's changed in the NBA this year has been the focusing in on offensive rebounding, like just because of getting long rebounds
Yeah.
and just extending possessions and everything. if you can kind of jump ahead and get to that level of the importance of offensive rebounding now in college, then you're going to develop a good advantage and everything. So I'm glad he ripped into him, and the offensive boards it showed, winning that by 6 tonight, like or in that game last night.
Yeah.
Like it was just awesome to see, and I'm glad that Figure's ripping into him, and because those are the non-negotiables. Like those are the things that you can control. Nobody else controls it, and go out there and put a body on somebody and go get a rebound.
Yeah, and I want to just bring up a couple more things. Of course, Mark Pope credited how great, the defense was, but he also talked about Kentucky's offense. And right now, he said the chances of us playing a game right now where we are just firing on all cylinders and making every shot, that's probably not where we are in our confidence, in our courage, in our spirit right now. But he did say that that they will improve and figure out a way to, improve their offense, and hopefully they can because, you don't want to always win a game just by out rebounding your opponent on the offensive side and, continuing like you would love to get offensive rebounds, but you would also love to, have ball movement and be able to make, these wide open threes.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be awesome once we do kind of get it all put together,
Uh-huh.
and you get to see this team at its fullest potential. Because I mean, still at this point, we haven't seen a glimpse of it, and when we do get a glimpse of it, maybe that is with the final piece of the puzzle, playing a game here soon. Um, Maybe that ends up being the thing that kind of frees this team up and gets them to the final point. But I can't wait for it. That day is going to be special, and like Pope said, we're not really there yet,
Uh-huh.
but we will get there eventually.
Yeah, and then I also want to bring up about DeMarcus Cousins. Somebody else asked him about, the DeMarcus Cousins tweet again, where, this team doesn't have any heart, and he said that during the Gonzaga game, and basically Mark Pope said that DeMarcus loves his program, like he is proud of this place, man. He's like he wants these guys to represent, so you own it. And basically, Mark Pope basically said that the whole team has reflected on this, and this is the product that we're putting on the court, and nobody likes this product. Nobody like the fans don't like this, the team doesn't like it, the coaching staff doesn't like it. So, Mark Pope, I think, emphasized what DeMarcus Cousins said about the team, and I think the team has taken that too hard as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that tweet from Boogie, and I hope it really, like we talked about, where it should be bulletin board material and just be put around there because a guy like that that's been such a legend here, that's just another wrinkle of it all that you need to be playing for and be proud to put on the same jersey that that man did.
Yeah, for sure. And then before the Indiana game, he said in his Friday press conference before UK played Indiana, though Pope said that the team is going to have a revolving door on who's going to be starting, and basically said it's all about matchups, who is playing the best currently at that time. And I thought that stood out to me whenever he said that on Friday before the game. And then of course he got asked about, why Andrei Yelovich and then, some other players didn't play a lot. And he basically said that's just the nature of the game and what the game was calling for tonight. And if we can embrace that, we can win in a lot of different ways because, some players won't get a lot of playing time, like Jasper Johnson, Trent Noah, Colin Chandler didn't get a lot of playing time in the second half. So sometimes that will happen. And that stood out to me with Mark Pope just saying like, hey, like at this point, we're not the greatest right now. We've got to play, 7 or 8 players at max and, let the 9, 10, 11, 12, like the other 4 players not play at all sometimes.
Yeah, I'm glad he's just doing that at this point though. I'm glad that he's adapting to like playing the guys that need to be playing. And I'm sure if there wasn't that run and everything in the second half, maybe they do end up throwing Yelovich in or bringing guys back in and stuff and just trying different things. But I'm glad he let that lineup run. Like once they were in there, he didn't just like see him go take a little bit of a lead or something and then just pull him out. So it was very, very important to see that. And I just love the post kind of adapting to that and changing his ways to where it's like he will just do whatever it takes to win games instead of like just going with what he's always done.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But do you have anything else you want to say about this podcast? We'll have a podcast, of course, later this week to cover, the UK versus St. John's game on Saturday. But we just wanted to get on the podcast, talk about the Indiana game and how we are very excited that they finally got their first big win of the year.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. It's just it's fun to
Yeah.
be in the win column in one of these big games.
Yeah, finally for sure. And of course, hopefully UK can defeat St. John's and potentially maybe Jaden Quakins is back for the St. John's game. If not, I expect him to be back probably for the Bellarmine game if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think it seems like at this point Bellarmine's just the latest. It's like
Yeah.
is it St. John's or Bellarmine? It's going to
Yeah.
be sometime soon. We're officially on game to game watch
Yeah.
to get the man, the myth, the legend, Jaden Coins
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, and of course we can talk about that in our next podcast. But no, we appreciate you all watching on YouTube, of course, and of course listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But we're very excited. All we want now for UK is get Quakens back, beat St. John's, and then either land a commitment with either Christian Collins or Tyrone Stokes, basically at this point for basketball.
Man, yeah, we got to get one
Yeah,
soon. I mean, I think at this point we got to snag both of them. But
if we
um,
can, it'll be a Christmas
yeah,
miracle.
yes, it would be a Christmas miracle. But I feel like we got to get both of them. And whoever is in the wrong, I know there's been a lot of conflicting reports and everything. Somebody just got to budge, and we just got to land both these kids.
Yeah, for sure. And we can talk more about JMI probably in the next podcast because, of course, Mitch Barnhart did a interview with UK Sports Network about JMI, but we'll talk about that in a later podcast. But let's wrap it up. We appreciate again you all watching on YouTube and of course listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But this is Chris Beesmore and
And Cameron Waddle.
signing out. Have a great week, everybody.